Hello everybody, this is Gregory with 5 Minute Catholic Apologetics, where 5 minutes of your time may get you to the divine. Today we're going to talk about 5 things that have happened post-conciliar period that makes me wonder, Now before we begin, let's start with a prayer. Nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. Gloria Patri et Filii et Spiritus Sancto, secutor in principio et nunc et semper et in saecula saeculorum. Amen. I apologize for the light behind me. There's just window slots. I can't do anything about it. And just in case you're a stalker, no, I do not work for this. It's a free t-shirt. All right. So similar episodes of this would be 11 Signs that Your Priest is a Modernist. We have an episode on a standalone on Holy Day of Obligations, why they've been changed. And the 5 things I want to talk about are just innovations or changes in discipline, not in dogma, but just changes in discipline that have happened since the end of Vatican Council II that just made me wonder, why did we enact these things? Because in general, all 5 of these are things that I would not say are beneficial to our spirituality and are just a little worrisome. So in no particular order, number 1, annulment passage rates. Annulments were exceedingly rare prior to Vatican Council II, exceedingly rare, like under 10%, and you can go even below that if you go back to previous centuries. Now the passage rate on annulments, it depends on the diocese, and from what I understand, the SSPX now has their own ability to do their own tribunal for annulments, and certainly the ordinary charitably of St. Peter too, because they're their own national diocese. But it hovers around 75%. So 75% of Catholics who file for an annulment will get them. I do know that Pope Francis implemented a more expedited form for annulment. So I know some in particular who it only took them 4 months. And this happened in 2022. It only took them 4 months from filing to getting it granted. And again, we have episodes here, a 2-part series on Christian remarriage, and I don't want to spend too much time on it, but I think we want the canon lawyers to do their due diligence on making sure that the initial marriage was not valid and the people can remarry should they choose to remarry. I do think that there are some worrying factors in that now we have greater science, greater wisdom on what can constitute defective consent. And beforehand, defective consent was pretty much shotgun wedding, like you're going to marry my daughter, or something like that. And now it's like, well, if you had an alcoholic father, or if you suffered from neglect, all these things didn't get led up to you not giving true consent. And I just think it opens a slippery slope to what the Protestants say, where essentially annulments are Catholic divorces, because at the passage rate it is a little worrisome. So I would like to see that annulment rate go down. Number 2, fasting days have dropped. In the old days, pre-Vatican II, you would fast every Friday. That was just understood. No meat. I should say it's abstinence. So abstinence on Fridays, and that you would not eat meat. And after post-Vatican II, or after Vatican II, now of course we only do it on Lent. Now it's optional. I know people that fast every day. I know people that fast every Friday throughout the year. And do abstinence, I should say, abstain from meat. So it's really up to you. It's your own kind of personal devotion. But it was one of those things. It's like, well, why are we making it easier? In other words, like why are we taking away that thing? It's not like it's hard not to eat meat on Fridays, every Friday. I mean, you can eat bread and soup, you can eat fish, whatever it is. But we used to have to do it more often. And then there were special feast days, like Ember Days, for example, where you would restrict it to the fasting or abstinence. And now it's just kind of like, now you only have to do it, abstain from meat only on during Lent, and then fast really only on Ash Wednesday and Good Friday. It's just like, why? That's not making our faith necessarily stronger or interior life stronger. Number 3 would be moving holy days of obligation to weekends. I've talked about this on a standalone episode when Ascension Thursday was this year, not on Thursday. And it's like, again, we talked about how we used to have a lot more feast days. We had, around the time of Pius X, about 100 feast days in the West of holy days of obligation. And then we've kind of narrowed it down in America to about 10. But now you notice about 5 of them are, if not more, because Easter and Christmas always fall, Easter always falls on a Sunday. But you look at Pentecost, you look at Ascension, you look at sometimes Assumption, these dioceses in America. It is not necessarily a USCCB thing, it's a diocesan thing. So there are certain dioceses which will leave, for example, Ascension on Thursday. But now you see them all moving into Sunday, and I get it's because, well, maybe they don't want as many people to fall into a state of mortal sin, because it is a holy day of obligation to go to these to go to Mass on these holy days. And so if people forget to go on Thursdays, well, they won't be in a state of mortal sin, and so then let's just move it to Sunday. But again, to me, it's just like another sign of watering down the faith. How about publicize it weeks in advance? This is Ascension. You know what? We're not going to have just the typical 12 o'clock Mass. We're going to have 5 Masses. One priest, I'm sure he can do 5 Masses. Some parishes have 2 priests. We'll do a 6 a.m., 7 a.m., 8 a.m., noon, and 5, or whatever. Your job as a priest, one of them, the 2 big jobs, is to administer sacraments. So I think that's just another kind of like thing that makes us lazy. Number 4 is going to be cremation. We didn't allow cremation prior to Vatican II. That's a post-conciliar kind of innovation. And again, I want to be fair. So it's okay to cremate. The church advises against cremate. They still want you to be buried, but they do allow cremation so long as the ashes remain intact in a ciborium and an urn. You can't, again, scatter them. I hear so much on like EWTN. You know, my grandma, my brother once. My grandma just died, and she told him that she wanted her ashes scattered, but I'm a Catholic and she's a Catholic, and I know that she would want this, and you see all this. And the Protestants, of course, do it, and then certainly the pagan atheists do it. That's one of the reasons why the church taught against it, because it was so pervasive in the pagan world during the advent of Christianity, and it kind of nullifies the belief of the resurrection of the body, certainly through the power of God. Even if your ashes are scattered, your body will be reunited with your soul in the final judgment. But again, it's like there was no reason. If you look at, we've had essentially 1,950 years of believing in burial, or burial at sea for sailors, for example. And then now we're like, I guess cremation's okay. And so that's like another innovation where it's just like, I don't understand it. And some people think that cremation's cheaper, but in fact, cremation is just as expensive as a low level burial. And like I've told people in my life, it's like, if I die, you don't need to get the expensive coffin. Give me the cheap pauper's coffin. Okay, there's no real. I'm dead. It's just my body. Why do I care what box that I'm in? So I think those are the 5. I'm forgetting one. See, this is the problem with not jotting them down. And of course, I remember as soon as I turned off the camera. The 5th one is going to be lessening the amount of miracles needed for canonization. Now, historically, it's been, I always say historically, because if you look at the early church, Holy Mother Church had it instilled or instituted a certain criteria. But for the last several hundred years, it was 3 miracles that you had to get to become a saint as you go through the Sermon of God, and then be venerable and beatified and so forth. And now we've narrowed that down to only 2 miracles. And again, it's just like, why? What was wrong with the 3 miracles? Why do we need to streamline these things? It just seems like we want to get more saints canonized, and do we necessarily need that? And I think the running thread through all of these is kind of path of least resistance, kind of just watering down, making things easier. And like we've seen with the ultimate expression of this Protestantism, which is lazy Christianity on so many theological levels, I just don't think that it's wise to have done any of these 5 things. People stand up and are motivated when you set a high bar. When you keep lowering the bar, like with students, they're just going to go down the lowest common denominator. And I would like to see all 5 of these things go back to the way they used to be, because there was really honestly no good reason to eliminate these things or make these innovations. Now, I know the certificate is, and I know what you guys are all going to say, but I mean, there's no reason in that. And again, I'm a humble servant of Holy Mother Church, and whatever's bound is bound. I would just like, since none of these are necessarily dogmatic, to go back to the way things were. Guys, post in the comments, let me know if you agree or disagree, or add other things, other post-conciliar innovations that to you have not been good for the faith. Hit the notification, subscribe, and share button, and share with others. Until next time, take care, God bless, and pray.